Look! Look, the dynamic duo!
The sudden return of the population provided the necessary energy for the emergence to begin.
We came here 7,000 years ago to protect humans from the deviants.
We need to find the others.
We have loved these people since the day we arrived. When you love something, you protect it.
You can't protect any of them.
Hey guys, welcome to the show. I'm Franz.
I'm Kevin. Welcome back to the Batcave and Avengers Tower, everybody. Tonight, as an exclusive, Franz and I have just left one of the biggest movies of the year, or at least everybody is hoping, The Eternals. And this is our breakdown. It'll be spoiler-free, so don't worry, but do go. Marvel needs the money, and we need the support. Take it away, partner.
I like it, man. I like it a lot. So obviously, we just came back from reviewing the movie. And as you said, this is going to be a spoiler-free review. And I just can't wait to share my opinion, and I can't wait to hear your thoughts. If you don't mind, I'll go first because I'm a little bit excited. But Kevin, I love the movie. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. And there are several criteria that make a movie good for me, particularly a superhero movie. One of the things that's very important to me is authenticity to the source material. You know that. That's something that matters to me and to us and to this show. Authenticity to the genre. Are you staying faithful to the genre of the superhero? Are you treating the material well? One of the things that I talk about is, and I've said this in previous reviews, I've said, if I'm given the chance to do a movie, I would do the best movie possible. You know, I would make it as exciting as possible, as authentic, as good of a story as possible. So that's important to me as well. As opposed to a movie that doesn't take itself seriously and becomes silly and becomes like out of character within itself. So those things matter to me. Is it exciting? Is it action-packed? I'm going to see a superhero movie. Is it fun? You know? And I have to say that this movie ticked all the boxes for me. Being faithful to the source material, it's not 100 faithful to the source material. It really isn't. But it's as faithful as the other movies have been. Some of the, especially some of the other Marvel movies. It's as faithful as the Avengers. It's as faithful as anything else. There are changes, but there are changes in most, if not all, these movies to some extent or another. It didn't matter as much to me because the truth of the matter is that the Eternals as characters are not so established that I need the finer details to be there as it would for another movie. And I've come to accept that my finer details are not going to be there always. So from a faithful to the source material, it's as good as anything else. I would have liked it to be more, but I accept that it's not, as I've accepted for the other movies. For example, Venom, we went to see Venom. For example, Shang-Chi, we reviewed Shang-Chi. None of those are 100% faithful to the source material. They're just not. They emulate the source material, which is what this movie does. So it gets a pass. It doesn't get a good grade, but it gets a pass from my point of view. Story-wise, I thought the story was compelling. I thought it was interesting. It kept my interest. And I promise you, there were some plot twists in there that not only did I not expect, but that really blew me away. It made the story that much more interesting to me. I found it fascinating, and I found it to be bold choices. Action. There was enough action in there. I'm sorry, but it did that thing that I think an action movie is supposed to do. It gave me action in the beginning, gave me some action in the middle, and it gave me action at the end. And all of them were well done. Sometimes superhero movies deliver action, but it's not stylistically to my liking. This movie delivers, in my opinion, stylistically. As you know, I'm a Zack Snyder fan. And the reason I like Zack Snyder is because his superhero delivery, action delivery is stylistic and it's cool. It's comic book pages come to life. I thought this movie did that. I really did. And what I liked about the action sequences is that when something is happening, you care, you're involved in the fight. It's dramatic, it builds to a crescendo. It matters what's happening, why they're fighting, as opposed to just making special effects actions. Everything mattered. I thought it delivered. Some of the special effects, for example, the way that they depicted Makari, who's a speedster, to me, it's the best depiction of a speedster, including the Flash and Zack Snyder's Justice League, which I say including because I happen to be a particular fan of that. I hated the depiction of Quicksilver in the X-Men, hated it, even though people liked it, the whole slow motion, freeze time motion, that didn't make sense to me. I wasn't crazy about the Quicksilver in the Avengers. I liked the Zack Snyder Justice League. I thought this nailed it. This is a good depiction of a speedster. So it delivered on that end. And I just thought it was a great movie. I just thought I thoroughly enjoyed it. What did you think?
Well, partner, as you know, when we were leaving the theater, I told you I didn't hate it, which I don't. One of the things that you and I have to agree to disagree on, I thought the story should have been a little tighter. Okay. Overall, I agree with you. It did take some liberties, but it also paid homage to Jack Kirby's original material. And I thought that most of the cast really did a good job with the characters, even though changes were made and things were turned around and done differently. I thought they did a good job. The action, as you said, it was superb. For a long time, I haven't seen what I call grouped superhero action done and choreographed as well as this was. The action sequences are enough to hold you in place for the entire movie. And as you said, there's action in the beginning, there's action in the middle, and the closing of the movie definitely is loaded with it. And by the way, ladies and gentlemen, do not get up at the end of the movie because, as always, Marvel delivers with additional material that you must see that are, in fact, setting up a sequel. I do think, and I'm not beating up on the movie, I did think that there were a couple of scenes where it seemed like the chemistry of the actors kind of waned and broke a little bit. Outside of a few scenes, and I'm not really going to mention anything specifically because I don't want to spoil it for anyone that may see it, this weekend or within the next 2 weeks or what have you. For that, we'll come back with a spoiler-based review and really kind of go through it with a fine-tooth comb. But overall, I thought it was a decent movie. I really, really thought cinematically they had done a fantastic job. The locations were superb. The way that they handle a lot of the visual stylings of the movie, to me, it's one of the better ones that they've done in terms of the visual presentation. That was dead on to me. I really do think that Angelina Jolie deserves a lot of the accolades that she gets for being in this movie as Fina to begin with. The woman went through physical training for close to 5, if not 5.5 months. And ladies and gentlemen, it shows.
It does.
She is kicking butt left, right, up, and down. And not to take anything away from the rest of the cast, but I have to tell you, Angelina is worth the price of admission herself. Even if they were to just do a movie based on the Fina character, the way that she played her was superb. To be honest with you, even though I had a little bit of a problem with some of the elements in the script, I am already looking forward to a sequel because I want to see how they follow this up.
You've said so much, and I have a question for you, but I also want to say some things as well. First of all, let me say that I totally agree with you. It's an amazing thing what a great actor is. And it's not acting ability. It's really not. A great actor, it's not their acting ability, quote unquote, that makes them a great actor. It's just their presence. And I'm telling you, Angelina Jolie, her presence is just so powerful. Yes. And it's unbelievable to me. I absolutely agree with you. She just chews up the scenes. What I loved about it, though, is that the other characters, the other actors were right there with her, in my opinion. I love Druid, for example. I just loved him. And I loved every single performance and delivery. Icarus, for example, to me was solid. So was Cersei, the actor who played Cersei. I thought the roles were really, really well done. The one place that I'll agree to disagree, and that's perfectly fine that we may have different opinions, is that I thought there was tremendous chemistry. I thought there was tremendous chemistry within the actors. And I was worried about this movie. I was worried about this movie for a lot of reasons. One of the reasons that the director, young woman director, comes from indie documentary type films. Yeah. And so I was afraid that it was going to be too intellectual and not action-packed enough. And I'm telling you right now, in my opinion, she delivers as action-packed, as an exciting a movie as I've seen, period. I'm not saying it's the best, but it ranks right up there in terms of delivery of action. I'm not saying it's an action-packed, nothing but action movie. I'm saying when there is action, it's done well. There are several directors, several movies where the action is simply not delivered well enough.
Right.
This was not the case. This was not the case, in my opinion. So my question to you is this. So I'm saying a lot of things, but there were several things that I was worried about the movie, and my fears were elated completely. In my opinion, the plot made a lot of sense, which brings me to this question. Where did you feel? Because one of the things that I appreciated in the movie is that for me, it answered every single point. It made it clear. It was a complex, deep subject that was presented in a simplistic way. It's what I love about comic books. In other words, it's a story that the 5-year-old could enjoy, but the 70-year-old could enjoy just as well. You know, the intellectual could enjoy just as well. So where was it lacking for you that it wasn't lacking for me?
With actually, while trying not to give anything away, I'll put it that way.
Sure, that's true.
Some of how they handled Icarus, okay? I thought, even though it was part of the plot itself, I thought it got a little muddied and a little long in terms of how they were trying to convey some of what he was feeling as a character. And I think within that space, a lot of it really wasn't corrected or kind of put back on track until closer to the end of the movie, which by itself as a conclusion is fine. I just think that, again, without giving anything away, some of the conflict that's there should have actually kind of showed itself in earlier points of the movie. I think certain things they waited too long to settle within the last act of the film itself.
That's fascinating. That's fascinating to me because I kind of felt the opposite way. We can't say too much. We certainly have to be very careful. So we have to be very, very careful on the subject. All I can say is that I thought it got to me. It got to me. It got to me. It got to me on a personal. There are points, I promise you, without exaggeration, where I was almost getting emotional. Like the movie was that good to me. Like it's an action movie, it's a superhero movie, but there were points where I was like, I'm so into what's happening and the conflicts that the characters are going within themselves, the turmoil, the questioning, the what should I do? That was so powerful to me that I felt some of the emotions coming through me. So I happen to think that was handled well. I think it was handled the way that you're describing it, because you described it very well. But I thought it was handled that way specifically. I thought it was handled that way on purpose. I don't want to say too much, but I thought it was on purpose, and I thought because it was on purpose, it was well done. That's the way I perceive it. That's the way I perceive it. Listen, there's a lot of hate coming towards this movie. The haters are gonna hate, and there's a lot of AIW subjects coming in this movie, and there are a couple of things that are triggering that are gonna make people not like this movie. Obviously, that's not how we roll. That's not where we come from. But one of the ways that I know that these criticisms are not fair, the criticisms coming from the noise of the internet, is that, as I've said in other shows, it's predetermined. It's predetermined what they're going to like and not like. Prior to the movie coming out, there was already hatred coming towards this movie and criticism coming towards this movie. And it sets a tone that everybody seems to just jump on board on. And you and I, what we've always done is we've always said, well, let's wait and see. I hear the noise. The thing has like the lowest Rotten Tomato review. It has criticism up the wazoo prior to anyone seeing anything about the movie. And to be honest with you, there were things about the movie that troubled, that worried me. But my thought was, let's wait until I see the movie to have an opinion on the movie. The way that the commercials, the trailers depicted the movie, to me, it's weird. It wasn't true to the movie. The trailers made it seem sillier. They focused on the funny parts in a way that made it seem that it's going to be another one of those cutesy little funny movies. It wasn't. There's funny scenes in the movie, but it's not at all a cutesy, funny Shang-Chi, sorry to say it, type of movie with cutesy little stuff. It's not. And it blended comedy with a legitimate story perfectly, in my opinion. That's the way it should be done, without making it silly. You see what I mean?
Of course. And if I may piggyback on what you just said, you couldn't be more correct with a lot of the hate and a lot of the bashing that had happened beforehand. Not only with this, but with a lot of the Marvel movies, a lot of the comic book material, period, whether it's DC, Marvel, or even an independent type film. If I may, I think that comes from two sources, two primary sources. One, you've got people reviewing these things that have no real idea what they're looking at.
Mm-hmm.
They either didn't read the comics, or in the cases where it's cartoons, They didn't follow any of that when they were kids or even reading them as adults. A lot of these folks haven't. You can tell by the way of their review that they have no idea what they're talking about.
Correct.
The other thing, if I may, is that within the social constructs that a lot of the world is dealing with and coming from avenues like Instagram and Facebook and what have you, part of the problem is, as with the professional reviewers, you have a lot of people that are just jumping on the bandwagon for a lot of this stuff because it's not Spider-Man, because it's not Batman, because it's not Thor, okay? And even within the space of what that is, they have no idea what they're looking at.
Yeah.
So it's a combination of those two things.
Yeah.
And, you know, folks get on, you know, on the social media platforms and they lose their mind.
Yeah.
And once they get going, because these things are giving them a platform to express themselves, which is fine with any movie, music, or anything that you're doing. But if you're going to review it, if you're going to rate it, if you're even just going to talk about it, at least give the material the dignity that it deserves and know what you're talking about when you open your mouth.
I couldn't agree with you more, my friend. I really couldn't agree with you more. There are two other groups that I would add to what you said. And what you said is absolutely correct. But there are two other points where the hate is coming from. You've got, as you said, you've got a group that's Marvel versus DC, you know, and it's like, okay, if it's DC, I'm supposed to hate it. And they start bashing the DC movies and they make YouTube videos about how horrible DC movies are. And none of the videos are objective or make sense, because the thing that they're criticizing the DC movie for having, a Marvel movie will have in spades, and they won't say anything about it. You've got that group. The other group that you have is what we call the AIWs, the anti-inclusivity warriors, and they are triggered. Anytime a movie has the appearance of having some sort of quote unquote agenda of diversity, they become triggered. And the quality of the material doesn't matter. They just want it to fail. And I hate to say this movie falls under that category. The fact that the cast is diverse, people who didn't know anything about the Eternals, who never even heard the word the Eternals, were saying, oh my God, how dare they change the character from a male to a female. You didn't know anything about the character. How and I don't want to give spoiler alerts, but that movie got a reputation in its inception that it's a SJW, social justice warrior type movie with an agenda to blah, blah, blah. And it triggered a lot of people to hate it. And that's one of the reasons why the hatred started. And as I said, the proof is in the pudding. When you're hating and judging, I remember feeling that same way for Justice League. They were hating that movie a year before it came out. And by the time it came out, it was a fascinating thing, because you would say to someone, okay, what do you think about Justice League? It's, oh, that movie sucks. That's the worst movie. Marvel's great. DC sucks. Did you see the movie? No, I wouldn't go see that junk. How are you going to have an opinion without seeing what you're opining about? And unfortunately, I fear and I think this movie is going to suffer from that. I don't know that it's going to do well at the box office, because the energy, the motion of it is, oh, it sucks. I'm telling you right now, for the record, in my opinion, as objectively as I could be, and keep in mind how objective I was for Shang-Chi. I was rooting for Shang-Chi. Keep in mind how objective I was for, what's the other movie? You know, Venom and all the other movies that we've reviewed and I've been honest about. If this movie failed me in any way, shape, or form, I'd be the first one to say, I have no agenda. You know, I disagree that there is an agenda in the movie, by the way. I don't see it. But in my objective opinion, that director does what I have been begging any director to do. Take your work seriously and give me the best work you possibly could. And what, in my opinion, she did is she looked at the script and said, let's deliver a great script. she looked at the exposition, the character development. She said, let's maximize character development as a professional filmmaker. She looked at the genre, superhero. Let's maximize the genre of the superhero. Let's not cheapen it. She did not. And I just thought she just delivered a fantastic, great job. And what I was thinking about, believe it or not, I'm like, I wish she would direct the Fantastic Four because it's an ensemble group. And I'm like, wow, I could see her delivering Fantastic Four because there's a lot of similarities in terms of the ensemble. That's how I feel about it.
It's one last thing that I feel must be said. Because of the bashing and because of the possibility that it may fail within box office. And ladies and gentlemen, stop listening to the negativity. Go see the movie for yourself.
Yes.
Even though I said that I thought the storyline and the script could have been a little tighter, that's the only thing that I really have a problem with the movie. And to be honest, even with me saying that, that's me nitpicking. I'm going to be honest about even what I've said. Go see the movie, decide for yourself.
Agreed.
But within that, what my worry is, even though they have the actors under contract for, from what I understand, 3 films, if the film doesn't work, Disney and Marvel may pull the plug on the other 2 and decide not to do them. And if that happens, that's a pure and complete injustice because this film deserves its sequels.
I agree, my friend. I absolutely agree with you. And unfortunately, I fear that that may happen, but I absolutely agree with you that that would be a shame. It really, really would be a shame because it's a good movie. Now, you nitpicked, let me nitpick because I do have a slight problem with the movie. And it's a pet peeve of mine. So let me be objective and let me be critical where I'm critical. They did the nighttime CGI, and I don't know why they continue to do the nighttime CGI. Like, stop it with the nighttime CGI. And it's funny because the movies that have nighttime CGI and daytime CGI, it always looks so much better daytime. And I think the excuse is, oh, because it's CGI, let's make it nighttime so that it looks more real because we'll miss some of the details. But it always looks better to me in the daytime than it does in the nighttime. And this movie had way too many nighttime action sequences. And I don't understand. There were action sequences that happened during the day that somehow they put in a shade and made it seem like it's night, which doesn't make sense. There were action sequences that were happening on the beach, bright daylight, noon, but some of it was inside a cave. And so we get that shadowed look. Whereas when it's outside, it looks great to me. Like it looks great. So that's my nitpicking criticism of that movie. I don't know why directors insist on doing that, but this movie fell victim to it. And it's the kind of movie that's worth watching multiple times because I think that it's the kind of movie that as you watch it, the plot holes that you may have missed are there, like the answers are there. And sometimes, as you said, the answers come later, like they come way later. But I like that because it's like, oh, I get it. That's why he did so and so. That's what happened. I don't mind that. So anyway, guys, Kevin is absolutely right. It's not up to us to determine whether a movie is good or bad. All we could do is tell you our opinions. You have to make up your own mind. And all we could ask is that you give this movie a legitimate chance. Purge the noise and go with an open mind and watch this movie for what it is. And if you dislike it, that's perfectly fine. If you like it, that's perfectly fine. But don't go in there thinking, oh, this sucks, therefore I have to agree with the crowd. That's not the way to go. And don't go in there thinking, oh, there's an agenda, therefore I must dislike it because they're doing X, Y, Z. There's a scene in the movie I know is going to trigger a lot of people. It's going to trigger hatred from a lot of people. You know, we'll talk about that when we talk about the spoiler, but just go with an open mind and appreciate the movie for what it is.
Ladies and gentlemen, trust us. We will never let you down. And truth is what you'll always get from the Batcave. And truth is what you'll always get from Avengers Tower.
I love it.